Hi, this is Erica Merrill, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a family and real estate law firm in the Worcester area, and today we are going to be talking about two very costly attributes to a family case, and that would be vengeance and principle. And I want to welcome you, Nicole. This is such a crazy topic. People don't realize how expensive these two things are.
It is the most expensive topic because when you're dealing with rational people that don't have those two issues, obviously your cost is much more reasonable. Again, you can still fight, you can still argue about things, but at the end of the day, it's so much more cost effective.
Now, let's talk about a couple different things that may cause people to want to take out, or ways for them to take out vengeance and ways for them to fight for their principle that is very costly. Like, what are some of the things that cause people to have so much anger that they need to get vengeance?
I don't know what causes people. I think it's just generally people are like that. They are that mentality. They're, you did me wrong, so I'm going to do you wrong attitude, and they just can't control themselves. Um, I can tell you what the aftermath is because I deal with the aftermath. I see the results of that vengeance. It's let's run up. The easiest one is let's run up bills. We're just not going to settle because we're not going to settle. We're not going to settle because I'm going to torture her. Those are big ones. And then we talk about the nitty gritty things. You know, when we're fighting over the lawnmower, and we're fighting over the bed, and we're fighting over the animals, that's where it really gets very nasty and their true colors come out. And unfortunately, you can't really stop people from doing that, but at least I can put safeguards in place to, if they do something detrimental to that effect, we can protect you.
And that's interesting because I know that in the past you have said to me that, people get extra angry about certain situations. It seems like a couple is getting along fine. The divorce is somewhat amicable. Everyone is ready to sign. And then somebody gets a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
That's usually one of the instances because it's, well, why are you friendly with your ex? Why do you just listen to everything your ex says? You know, you've got a voice. Why don't you be a stronger person? Don't put up with her crap. Who do you think you are? Don't let her talk to you that way. And then you're like, oh, but I really like this new girl. So I'm going to listen to the new girl and I'm going to lose all my principles. And it's something mentality wise that triggers you and you now start acting like a jerk. So that's a great example of when somebody starts acting that way, because it's the jealous ex girlfriend or the current girlfriend, and how dare you be near them, and it's all that situation, and it just boils over. And of course, you're like, but I really like her, so I'm going to listen to her. Yeah, you know, my ex is really a bitch, and all of a sudden it starts clicking in your brain. Well, even if that's true, that doesn't mean you get to act like a jerk, and you shouldn't. But unfortunately, you kind of play into that person that's kind of being that bug in your ear, and you become that person that is very vengeful.
And I've seen that on both sides. I've seen men get extremely jealous and protective of their new girlfriend if their girlfriend is complaining about their ex and, maybe complaining about parenting time or money or whatever it is. They might get involved and get right in the middle of an argument. I've seen it where, an ex will really be the fuel behind, all the money spent in court because, they just want to cause trouble. Maybe they want the money for themselves later when they go through a divorce. It can be crazy. Uh, how does this usually end? I mean, do you see these things just dragging the cases out and running up the bill? How do you end it when it happens?
I think it's good strategic planning. It's good documentation. What is it that you can do? What is it that your attorney can do that we can see these things going on? Sometimes it's just, you sending me a copy of the text messages where you can see, hey, look, we're being very nice and cordial. And then all of a sudden, within a week of this happening, this is what's going on. And now, the fangs are out and we're all acting crazy. So again, really depends on what you can gather. Obviously, from my perspective, sometimes it's just about the other party paper pushing. Just keep, you just harass her. At some point, she'll just break down because she doesn't have enough money and I do. That's a great motive, right? So we'll have people that are like that. Well, again, on my end, I'm going to be able to see that. I'm going to be able to take that to the judge. So it really depends on, again, how many times have I said it? I'll keep saying it. Documentation. The more documentation that you can give me in whatever circumstance, the better off we're going to be. Because it really boils down to, what can you produce that we can visually see? What can I get from opposing counsel that I can see? Look, this is what's going on. I give you something and now you're fighting about something else. I can document that. That's why it's so important. I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. The more documentation you give to me, the more I can get it in front of the judge and say, Judge, this just isn't right. This is what is causing the problem. This is the delays. And as a result of that, I want them to be punished in this way.
And I know from experience, like a lot of times when you take on a new client, you hand them a journal. Because even if they haven't kept track in the past, there's no time like the present. I mean, you can just draw a line in the sand and start today on your new habit of tracking things. And then maybe you'll never need it, but maybe you will.
We can only hope you'll never need it, but the reality is at some point you will. You just don't know when that day is. And you don't know what prompts it a lot of times. Again, maybe it's, hey, we didn't have a problem. The new girlfriend's fine. They all love each other. Everyone's great and hunky dory. But then, you made a comment that seemed a little off kilter to the new girlfriend. And now all of a sudden the new girlfriend did a 180 and says, you're the enemy. You don't know what causes those problems. You don't know what's happening in their world and behind closed doors. So really it's about documenting everything because, like I said, you don't know when it's going to go crazy.
And for your sanity and just write things down for sure. What are some of the principles? We talked about principles, and people just, they don't care what happens. They're not going to negotiate because of the principle of the thing. They are hurt or they treated you so well and you did this and they don't forget. There's people that hold a lot of grudges in life, and it really slows down a case and runs the bill up. I mean, what are these principles that not your clients, but in general?
And I think that's exactly it. I've had the clients that want to, dig their heels in because of principle. And my first thing is, great. I'm willing to fight for principle, but let me do this analysis with you. Let's talk about this. We're looking at this number versus this number. That's $10 difference. And that $10 over the next 10 years equals this. And do you understand that if we go to trial right now, I'm going to be asking for that number. So do you want to give me that number today, or do you want to save that money over the next 10 years? So again, I try to put it in dollars and something that's quantitative because I do cost money. Imagine that. So it's things that I really want to focus on with people. Obviously, when we're talking about principle and I'm not giving him an extra half hour of time. Okay. You can't really argue with that, but I just go, but what is that going to do for you? Like, if you give him that extra half hour, what can you get done in that half hour? Think about all the things that you can do in a half hour if you don't have your children nagging at you going, hey mommy, how many, like, think about that. And so I try to do it that way in a different context, because obviously we're talking about emotions. We're talking about something else. If they're not harming the child, what is that half hour really going to hurt you? It's not. Maybe it's going to hurt you if you're going, well, I have to give the half hour and I have to do half the driving. Well, great. Then maybe we, negotiate then go, no, you do the driving if I give you the half hour. So there's things that we can do to try to mitigate those damages and mitigate those problems. But all too often, I can't even tell you how many times people want to fight over principle, and at the end of the day, they go, Nicole, I just paid you $10,000 and this is what we got. And I went, let's go back to the notes. Let's read those notes where I said, I don't think this is a good idea. And the good thing is that most of my clients know that. They know it going into it, they know it afterwards, and they're like, I should have listened to you. It's usually that answer versus, hey, why did I spend this money? And sometimes it takes people a little bit of time. Sometimes they really go, I want to focus on this. And they go, what am I doing? So, I kind of constantly try to be that light bulb reminder of, hey, let's think about this rationally. Let's think about what it's going to cost you. Why don't you talk to a family member, talk to your mom, talk to your dad, talk to your siblings, talk to whoever, and see if they think it's a good idea. Let somebody else be the sounding board. Because again, I'm motivated by money, right? But I'm also telling you, I don't want to take your money. So that's something to think about. Now, obviously, we're talking about you being the stubborn one and you want to hold out for principle. If it's the other party, again, what we're going to do is we're going to look at it and go, Judge, they continuously keep delaying and delaying and delaying, and their actions are unreasonable. I want attorney's fees. I want sanctions. I want something against them because their conduct is just completely unbecoming. Look at this stuff. There's no reason that we should have get beyond the fourth set of requests for production of documents. There's no reason why we should have asked for an extension on discovery. There's no reason why they had to depose me. All of those things I can bring to the court, and ultimately the court's going to be the decider of facts, and they're going to go, yeah, Nicole's got it well documented. So that's really how we deal with it on the other end.
I mean, I think that's fantastic, and that you have it documented and that you actually tell them what it's going to cost and really, is this worth it? Now, I do know somebody that spent over $100,000 on getting 60% of parenting time versus 50. And now that it's been a few years and they're actually getting along fine again, and she has a boyfriend and she likes to spend time with him and she likes to work out. It's like, you know what? I really could have used that extra day. It wasn't a big deal, and now I've spent $100,000.
It really is. And that's why I always go back to, if you're going to fight over something like that, again, I'm happy to take all of your money, but that's their college education. Is it worth it? And again, sometimes people really do believe it's worth it. And maybe it's because, they're not on top of things. They're a great parent, but they don't pay attention. Those are the types of parents where you go, really, is it worth it? Sometimes it is, because, you're putting your child in danger. Sometimes it's principle. So it really goes back to, what's your motive? If your motive is really, I'm here to protect my child, that person's going to be at work that time. Why would they want to have the parenting time when they're not even there and I can parent my child? That's a great reason, but that's not motivated by principle. So really kind of have to look at what their motivation is. And again, if it's principle, don't fight over it.
So are there any other triggers that cause people to stand on principle or really try to get vengeance? I mean, you mentioned something super scary earlier, and you said it, but I don't know if people realize how horrible it is for somebody to run up your credit cards that you have, and people take all of the money out of a marital account. And there are people who save tons of money in cash under their bed, and then they go and they spend it. Like, you hear about this with marriages sometimes that are still intact. Like, someone told me that I can't say it too specifically, but someone bought a car, like a Cadillac, with cash, and it was like everyone in the family was surprised, like, whoa, where are they getting cash? They're not the one that's the major breadwinner, but they obviously were very good at putting money aside, and they've still been married for like 10 or 20 years after that. But it's crazy. Like, people really do horrible things to each other. I just heard on the radio some lady had saved 50 grand and her husband's out of work and she doesn't want to share. She thinks he should Uber 15 hours a day, and she's not going to put any, even though she did save some of that during the marriage, but some of it was before the marriage. I mean, It's crazy.
It really is. And, the story's funny thing, it doesn't even shock me. Doesn't even faze me, because they're regular routine things. And I hate to say that, but it's the reality of it. And that's why, again, you have that good attorney that's going to actually dig through all of the documents, read them. Not going to go, here, just look at them. Yeah, I can give them to my client to look at. They're going to look at it with different eyes. But I am also looking at other things. So again, if only the client is looking at that, they're not going to know certain things. They're not going to, again, how savvy they are really depends on the client. But you're an attorney. You're supposed to be able to look at this differently. So I think it really boils down to follow the money trail, follow where that money came from. If somebody's getting paid, $1,000 a week and they're only depositing $700, well, wonder where that $300 is going. It's really simple when they deposit the $1,000 and an ATM withdrawals $300. It's not as easy when I know the check net is $1,000, but it's never deposited in there. So those are, again, the things that we're going to be looking at. That's, good detective work. That's what we do. But I think there's a lot of stories out there, a lot of spiteful people. Really hope that none of you are that spiteful, and really hope that you're not the recipient of the spitefulness. But at the end of the day, is it does happen, and that's why you need to have a good attorney that's going to be able to see that stuff and be able to address it. Because again, it's not just a matter of, yep, I can see it. It's, what are you going to do about it? And that's a great question to ask your attorney.
I mean, sometimes it's just as easy as taking those first steps. I mean, it's hard. You're in those relationships and you think something's amiss and things aren't going well, and you don't, it's hard to like take that first step. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I feel like people take years sometimes and maybe never even do take that first step to improving their life, to changing things, to finding out what's really going on. I mean, you see it all the time. You have to.
I do, and I think, again, it's always the person that doesn't have the finances. So and so does the books, not me. I don't do the books. Yeah, he pays the bills, right? It's always that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, he's paying the bills. Let's not have that question mark. Let's have it as a statement. Let's know this stuff. So again, it's one of those things that we always rely on the person. Yes, I love them. I trust them. Great. But it doesn't hurt to double check every once in a while. It doesn't hurt to just open the bills and make sure. Not saying you have to do the inquiry, not saying anything's going wrong, but it just gives you peace of mind to know, yeah, everything is as it seems. Wouldn't that be much better off? Because if it isn't, you need to investigate that further. You need to have that conversation. And maybe it's just a conversation. And maybe it's, oh, yeah, I moved it to this account that you didn't even know about. Could be completely legitimate, but you don't know if you don't ask. And you don't know if you don't do some digging. So just keep your eyes open.
And sometimes you need help. You need extra help because you might need to get an accountant involved and that sort of thing. And because it's too much for you to figure it out. Maybe that's not your line of work. So, that's always easy. But this is definitely the time in the interview when I absolutely encourage you to contact Nicole's office if you have any questions. And what really made me feel good is just having someone tell me, well, if this happens, then that would happen. And like a little bit about the process and a little about the strategy and what I actually need to know, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you've never been in family court before, or if it's something new to you, you can't go on what you see on TV or what happened to somebody Like, you just can't, because everyone's case is different. I'm sure you see a lot of people that are confused because of something they've seen somewhere else, whether it's TV or somebody that they know.
Do you know how many times I get, well, my sister's divorce, or this happened in this case, well, we hear that there's trials in a week. Well, that's because it's TV. So you hear all of these things on a regular basis. Believe me, I could be a billionaire if I had a dime for everyone that said those things. Absolutely. And I think that's really something that you need to sit down, you need to have that conversation because it is very specific to your case. And when you're talking about vengeance and principle, the simple fact of the matter is that carries over every single area of law, every single case. I've heard it in all different areas of practice. So it's not specific to one thing. It happens everywhere. It happens in daily life. And the question is, how are you going to address it? How are you going to deal with it? And that's why, like I said, you got to have somebody on your side, somebody in your corner that knows exactly how to address that in the legal system.
And everyone that works with you is very lucky to have you, I can say. Very level-headed, great at strategy, and honestly, it's so great to have someone that's in the court every single week working on several different issues for several different clients because you see it. You see everything. Not only do you see your cases, but you're sitting there watching other people's cases, and it just really gives you that crystal ball effect, which I do think you have. But it's really from the experience that you have. I try to listen when you tell me something, and I don't listen later on. I'm like, gosh, she was right again. What, Nicole? So we appreciate you.
Well, I try to be as honest as I can because the reality is I've seen it. And if I haven't, I'll tell you. I
Yeah.
haven't seen the situation. I'm not really sure what to predict. I don't know this judge. I can't really help you on this. But at least I can tell you what I've seen in other courts and I can tell you what I've seen in other situations that are similar to this. So I always try to at least give you the backbone of where this information is coming from.
We appreciate that. So, Nicole, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. And I think our next one should be how court is different than TV. Because that'll be a fun one. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This is really interesting, and I know you probably could write a book, but you wouldn't be allowed to publish it on on all these interesting situations with vengeance and standing on principle and how much people actually spend. Probably make all of our hair go white. It's crazy stuff. So I appreciate your openness and honesty in this situation, and giving us some insights.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.